Thank you very much. What a fantastic to be here in Dubai, in this futuristic city. And I'm going to talk about unleashing the generative AI Genie, a brave new metaverse or a nightmare scenario. I'm a strategic futurist, which means that I think about emerging technologies and how they change the future, organizations and society. I've written several books on these topics, and I'm building a research institute to ensure a thriving digital future for everyone. But enough about me, let's go straight into my talk. And I want to start off with a short video clip that sort of shows you how the future is changing in the next decade. And this video is by Jason Silva, a very well-known YouTuber, which is a really cool clip. Let's have a look.
As I speak, so it becomes. Words become incantations. AI art unleashes a new marriage, a new coupling of biological and digital technology, whereby, as I imagine, so it becomes.
So what he basically says that with AI, we now can democratize creativity. And I think that's a really awesome thing to show how this new technology is going to change our society. And in the coming years, we can say that the convergence of the worlds of generative AI, as well as the metaverse, they will deliver this magical experience. An experience where you really can be whatever you want to be, and where you can be in whatever environment you want to be. But it is important to be aware of that before the magic arrives, the next big thing often starts off looking like a toy. That's a famous quote from Clay Christensen, who said that there's new technology coming, but it might not look like as if it is the next big thing. And I think that's the perfect example with the metaverse. Because the metaverse is sort of a new era coming towards us, but the way it looks at the moment might not look like as it's being the future. What we see here is, of course, Decentraland, which is a decentralized platform that is sort of considered as being part of the metaverse. And we see JP Morgan having set up shop here. But it doesn't really look like this hyper-realistic content, this 3D immersive environment where we can have this fantastic experience. But that will come. In a couple of years from now, we'll have a future that seems magical. And to quote another famous author, any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. This is, of course, Arthur C. Clarke, and I used Midjourney to create this image of the famous author in the 22nd century. I'm really curious what he would have thought if this technology would have been available when he was alive. I think it's truly almost magical that we can do this nowadays. And the metaverse will usher in a new way of socializing, a new way of working, of learning, of interacting, of having, enjoying life as we do it today. But it's very important that with the metaverse, just like basically any other technology, you have to immerse yourself in to really and truly understand it. Now, we shouldn't go just like the first web where people said, oh, the web, that's a fad, or we don't need a mobile website. Just like now, organizations shouldn't say, we don't need to be present in the metaverse because that's not going to happen. It might not do so today, but it will do so tomorrow. And I can guarantee you that we are in for a wild ride, a truly wild ride where everything is going to be different from today. And to really understand what the impact of generative AI is and how it will redefine the internet, we first have to look what the metaverse is. And in order to do that, I first want to get rid of some of the myths. The metaverse is not gaming. The metaverse is not virtual reality. The metaverse is not Web3. However, it can be all of the above, but it doesn't have to be. And I think that's important to be aware of. So what is the metaverse? So for me, the metaverse, when I did my research for my book, Step to the Metaverse, I interviewed about 250 people who are building the open metaverse. And based on these interviews, based on my research, I came to the definition that the metaverse is where the physical and the digital worlds converge into a so-called phygital experience, augmenting both the virtual and the physical worlds. So there's a lot of information in this small sentence, so let's try to unpack it a little bit. Where the physical moves into the digital world. And that, you could argue, already exists today. If you are on a Zoom call or a Teams call with your colleagues from around the world, you are physically present in one part of the world, and you're meeting in the digital world. So you move from being physical into the digital world where you connect. Another aspect is the digital twins, where we create a sort of a digital replica of a physical asset, or a system of systems. And we are then able to interact with the digital asset, or we can monitor it, or we can interact with it from the virtual world. And we can do that through our tablet, through our laptop, maybe even through our smartwatch, but also, of course, through virtual reality, augmented reality. The other component is where the digital moves into the physical. And personally, I think that's a lot more interesting, because we have the entire world to play with, where we can add infinite layers of augmented reality to have an experience. And of course, the most well-known example is Pokemon Go from a couple of years ago, where the entire world managed to understand what augmented reality really is. And in the years ahead, we'll see that we can create millions of layers on top of the physical reality in order to have a better experience. We could have a flying dragon flying in this theater here. We could have an experience above the Burj Al Arab. Or we can have it in our factory so we can see how to fix an asset without having the mechanics coming in. And where we have this phygital environment, where the physical and the digital are converging, we're getting this phygital environment, which is a truly blue, an endless blue ocean. An endless blue ocean of opportunity for business, organizations, and society to create value. And the metaverse is truly a multi-trillion-dollar opportunity, and that could really benefit society as a whole. And I think to understand how that is going to happen, and we need to make sure that we build an open metaverse. A metaverse that's there for you and me, and not so much a metaverse that's owned by big tech who control our data, digital essence, or identity. If we're able to create an open metaverse where we control our data, we are able to create a multi-trillion-dollar economy from the metaverse. And by 2030, I believe that the internet will transform from a 2D experience to a hyper-realistic 3D interactive experiences, where we truly are creating magic every time we are part of the internet. And the immersive internet, as I sort of see the metaverse, the next iteration of the internet, will really become as pervasive as the air we breathe. And we will move from having to make a conscious decision to go on the internet, using our phone, for example, to being in the internet, to being part of the internet. That's where we're going to. And that was even before generative AI, and specifically ChatGPT, took the internet by storm. Of course, ChatGPT has been mentioned countless times during this conference, and the fact that it reached 1 million users in 5 days and 200 million users in 2 months is truly remarkable. And I really believe that generative AI will have an opportunity to make sure that the metaverse, that this hyper-realistic, magical experience, is coming a lot sooner than we anticipated. So, what is generative AI? Generative AI is basically synthetic content created by AI. Very simple. And this video that you see here literally took me 2 minutes to create. So I used ChatGPT to come up with a description of a blue man. I entered this description into Midjourney, a tool to create images. I then used that image I entered it into DID to automate it, added a few text, and bam, I had a video of a blue man. 2 minutes to create this video. I don't think that would have been possible only a year ago. And the funny thing is that with generative AI and AI, you can also upscale these images, so you can print them at home, or you can have some fun with it, of having a blue man above your bed if you're interested. So what I believe is that we are truly experiencing an acceleration of the metaverse. We are going at warp speed into this next iteration of the internet. But it's important to be aware of that the generative AI landscape is a lot more than just text. It's a lot more than just images and videos. It's also creating entire virtual worlds. And you might see on some slides a QR code. I have a few resources in my slides. If you scan that QR code, you will have access to all those resources that I have in my presentation. There are a few slides of them with them. So, what do we need to build the metaverse from a generative AI perspective? What we need is, I think we need text. We need code, because obviously we need to code the metaverse. We need plenty of audio to have conversations and to listen to whatever we want to listen to. We need images. We need assets, trillions and trillions of assets. And of course, we need worlds, virtual worlds. So let's go through each of these. First of all, text. I just wrote a book in 5 days with ChatGPT, which was quite a cool experience to do so. When ChatGPT came out, within a day or two, I started writing, and I basically used ChatGPT to write an entire book about future technologies that will influence our society. I asked ChatGPT which technologies are going to be important for us. It gave me a list of technologies. I edited a few of my own technologies, and then I asked for each technology, which questions do I need to ask in order to understand how this technology is going to evolve? And then it gave me a list of questions. I'll use these list of questions to then use them as prompts in ChatGPT to understand what was going to happen. And I had a dialogue with it. And I literally copied the text that it returned into my book. I didn't change any text. All I did was sort of move some sentences up and down to have a bit more structure. But that's all I did. I then edited it with Grammarly. I asked it to come up with a title, a subtitle, a description for the cover, and that description for the cover I entered in Stable Diffusion to come up with this image. That took me 5 days. And when I was done, I said, well, now write me a reference of my book. And it gave me a glowing reference of the book I had just written, which sort of shows you what's possible. So why did I do this? I did this because I want to experiment how fast the technology, off-the-shelf technology, already is today. Is it good? Yeah, it's pretty good. I wouldn't say it's as good as my other books, but it's decent. However, there was also a lot of bullshit in it. At some point, I asked it, how did AI and robotics converge? And it stated that in the 1980s, AI and robotics converged to create self-driving cars that changed transportation. If only that was the case, that would have been, our society would look like a lot different. So text is really useful, but it's not the only way we can use it. We can also use text in gaming and in virtual environments to create so-called artificially intelligent NPCs, or non-playing characters. And I want to show you a brief clip of a really cool movie that is all about this. I think something went wrong there. Let's see if we can do that again. No. Anyway, it's a clip from Free Guy, who you're probably all familiar with. A very funny movie, which is all about a non-playing character which becomes sort of conscious it creates this artificially intelligent conscious being in a video game. So that's sort of what's possible when you have this kind of technology. So if we look more what else is possible, we can see that we create this with generative AI for text. We can create personalized storylines. We can create in-game dialogues, books, newspapers, signs, and all kinds of other written content. And this content can be updated and adjusted on the fly based on who you are. So if Alice goes in one room and has an experience, and Bob goes into the same room on a different server, they might see different content in their room based on their experience, based on their context, based on who they are. So having this dialogue technology is really powerful to create a truly engaging experience. So then audio, because just having text is nice, but you also want to have conversations and you want to actually talk to people. Let's listen to a short clip.
You're a memory from the past. So without further ado, my friend who's difficult to describe and wonderful, and I'm so grateful he came on the show.
How's it going? Good to see you, buddy. It's been a long time since I've been on the show. I've missed this. It's always fun.
So this is actually Joe Rogan interviewing Steve Jobs in 2022. And what you just heard is all AI. It's Joe Rogan's voice had been cloned, Steve Jobs' voice had been cloned, and they used that to have two AIs having a conversation with each other. And if you listen to it, and it's, again, through the QR code you'll find it, it's remarkable that when you listen to it, you almost forget that it is AI. And it feels and hears and sounds just like two real people having a conversation. So now just generative AI has become a tool that allows us to really create, edit, and communicate in the metaverse. There are tools available where we can adjust audio on the fly without having to really go through the process of editing content. And that, I think, is really powerful. And the technology is evolving on a constant basis. Only a couple of weeks ago, Microsoft released Val-E, which allows you to clone any voice within 3 seconds. Only a year ago, you needed at least 15 minutes to do so. And now you can do it in 3 seconds. It's remarkable how fast the world is evolving. So if we then move to images, as you probably have noticed by now, that a lot of the slides that I use have been created with Midjourney. Midjourney, I think, is a really cool technology to create all kinds of really amazing images. And these images you can use in the metaverse to create a whole kind of new experience. For example, you can use it to drive visual effects, such as weather or environmental elements. And it gives you the possibility to add new weather patterns that are difficult to create yourself, but you just use images for that. Or you can use it to fill up your gaming environment with all kinds of cool images, whether they are NFTs or not, in the environment, so people can interact with that. Really powerful technology. Now, of course, having a metaverse with hopefully millions of virtual reality experiences, millions of augmented reality experiences, that of course means that we need trillions and trillions of assets. Assets that we can interact with. This can be a chair in a virtual room, it can be a motorcycle that we drive, it can be anything that you can come up with. And having to create this manually will be a really daunting task. So NVIDIA, and as well as plenty of others, are coming up with technology that allows you to do that on the fly. So with generative AI, we now have the tools to create 3D assets on the fly automatically, and which are basically can also adjust based on the person who is interacting with it. Really powerful technology to build the metaverse. And then, of course, if we want to create the actual virtual worlds, now we can use generative AI also to get inspiration for creating those virtual worlds. And we can get inspiration by combining 2 different or 3 different artists in order to have an idea of what kind of virtual world to build. But if we then do that, we can then use storytelling to actually build those virtual worlds. This is really cool technology, really new, Opus.ai, which basically allows you to create a virtual environment, a 3D environment that you can walk around in within minutes, just by typing a story. So you say, I want trees that, that blow in the wind, and bam, you've got trees that blow in the wind. And if you just have, the more you experiment and the more you create an engaging storyline, the better you get a virtual world that you can then actually walk around in with your avatar. Really powerful technology, so we move from having just the images to building entire virtual worlds with generative AI. So when we have generative AI and the metaverse converging, we're getting this personalized, interactive, dynamic, and immersive experience that is unlike we have ever seen. Yes, today it doesn't look like magic, but fast forward a decade and it is magic. It looks like magic. And that will drive engagement, it will drive joy. And I think that is a really cool development. But we should also not forget that, in the end, this generative AI is just tools to create media. And companies have always used tools to simplify media production. And now we have this very, very powerful tool to take this to the next level. What you see here is Walt Disney reusing their scenes over and over and over again, just to simplify the process. And now that tool has been given into the hands of everyone. So we are truly be able to democratize creativity and media production. And we are moving to an era where we will be creating the metaverse with our voice. And our voice, of course, is a lot more powerful than our hands to type or to write code or to type text. It moves a lot faster. So we're moving from this era where we use our hands to create the metaverse to having our voice to create the metaverse. Very powerful technology. And I think that in the years to come, that will truly drive the imagination age. The imagination age is an age where we are all busy being creative. Because AI has taken over all our other jobs, so what we have to do is we have to be creative. And we are creating content, we're creating media that we are sharing with the world. And we'll be able to see what I think a Cambrian explosion of creativity that will really change the world in ways that we cannot even begin to imagine. Because the moment these technologies are ending up in the hands of everyone is going to be creative, and we're going to get creativity and experiences that we cannot even think of today. I think, therefore I create, will be the new paradigm, I think. Where whatever we can come up with, so it imagines, so it becomes, is going to happen. Let's look at a few examples of how we can actually use this technology in the real world. I think the first one is really interesting, is AR-infused architecture. We can use this technology to have come up with creativity for the designs that we're building. Now we see some amazing buildings here in Dubai, but now imagine that we can link that to a tool like Midjourney. And we say, I want a building in the shape of the moon. And 10 seconds later, you have a design of a building in the shape of the moon. And then you can use that image to actually create that building in real life. I think that's very, very powerful. We can also use generative AI to create immersive learning experiences. So instead of banning this technology, which is being done all around the world, and schools are banning ChatGPT because they are, I think, too lazy to come up with new technologies, new ways to embrace this technology. So instead they ban this technology, which to me doesn't make sense. We should embrace this technology. We should teach our children how to use this technology so that they are able to become digitally literate, so that they understand how to use this technology instead of that they're just being thrown into the deep. With generative AI, we're able to create these immersive experiences where you are walking in ancient Rome in virtual reality, and the experience is being adapted on the fly based on the discussion that the teacher has with the students. Now that is a learning experience, something that I, unfortunately, didn't have when I was young. And then, of course, if we are in the metaverse, our avatars are born naked. So we need to dress our avatars, so we need digital fashion. Digital fashion is going to be a $1 billion industry, because Generation Z, those born after 95, and Generation Alpha, those born after 2010, or maybe we should call them Generation AI, which I think is more applicable to them. For them, their virtual identity is as important, or more important even, than their physical identity. So if they have a virtual identity, they want to dress that virtual identity. And we can use that with generative AI to create those clothes on the fly. Even more, we can draw our own clothes on a piece of paper, which is then being adapted into the computer on the fly. So we can draw our own whatever dress or coat, and 5 seconds later, our avatar is actually wearing that. Now that's powerful technology. But I think it's very important to be aware of, all this is not the Holy Grail. These tools are incredibly powerful, but they are, in fact, just tools. It's not the Holy Grail. They are just tools, and we need to treat them as such. It's neutral technology. We can use them for good, or we can use them for bad. And unfortunately, the bad is also going to happen.
You take the red pill, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
This isn't real.
What is real? How do you define real?
That's, of course, the question. How do you define real? And in a metaverse that's driven by generative AI, that question is going to be only more important. This clip that you see here is from The Matrix Awakens. It was released in November 21 by Unreal Engine and has been created entirely with the computer. Back then, it took about 200 people to do so, and Keanu Reeves that you see here is not real. That's actually completely digital. A fascinating movie clip to watch on YouTube. So, if we have to look at the dark side, the bad side of the convergence of generative AI and the metaverse, I think there are 4 challenges that we need to consider. These are polarization, manipulation, misinformation, and the issue of copyright. So let's discuss each of them briefly. First of all, polarization. In today's world, polarization is a problem, because we all live in our own filter bubble. Driven by toxic recommendation engines, we all live in our own world, and we believe that our own world is the truth. If I'm on LinkedIn, I think, that based on the content I get, I think everyone in the world understands everything about the metaverse and generative AI, because that's all I see. Obviously, that's not the case. Now, in the metaverse world, where we have this immersive internet that we are literally linked and in the internet, it becomes possible to have, with sleek AR glasses, to filter out the people that you don't want to see. So you imagine that you walk in the streets and you say, I don't like women with blonde hair, or I don't like men with brown hair. Let's just filter them out and replace them, I don't know, with a giraffe. That becomes possible. And just because I thought about it will probably means that somebody at some point in the future will make it. And people will use it. And I think that will drive polarization to a whole nother level that we're not even used to today. And then, of course, we have the issue of real-time deep fakes. And that will be beyond what we know today. I'm currently working on creating a digital twin of myself. A digital twin that looks like me, sounds like me, moves like me, walks like me, and really sort of is me. So next time that you see me on stage, it might be my digital twin. But if I can do that of myself, you can do that too of me. So my images are online, my voices are online, so you can create me and you can be me in the virtual world. Now, people are gullible, so if people think they see me, hear me, and it sounds like me and it looks like me, they probably think it is me. If that happens to me, that would be annoying, but not problematic. If it happens to a CEO or a world leader, that would give a much bigger problem. Let's look at a short video.
I am not Morgan Freeman, and what you see is not real. Well, at least in contemporary terms, it is not. What if I were to tell you that I am not even a human being? Would you believe me? What is your perception of reality? Is it the ability to capture, process, and make sense of the information our senses receive? If you can see, hear, taste, or smell something, does that make it real? Or is it simply the ability to feel? I would like to welcome you to the era of synthetic reality. Now, what do you see?
A really cool clip from a Dutch artist who created that to show what is possible today. Now imagine a couple of years from now what will be possible, and we'll be able to create deep fakes that we cannot recognize as being deep fakes. And we only have to look at what happens, when we can imitate an identity to look at Twitter. When Twitter announced their blue verification subscription, within, I think, in half an hour, people were imitating brands, and brands lost billions of shareholder value because of that. So this is really problematic. Now, of course, if we then take this a step further, we can move to manipulation. And if we have these artificially intelligent, non-playing characters, these AI can be used to sell us stuff. So imagine you are in a virtual experience and you see several NPCs scattered around talking. And now imagine that you are looking to buy a new car. And all that information is available, of course, because all your data is available, to the owner of that game. And the owner of that game might then sell that information to an advertiser who allows NPCs to talk about that particular car brand that you are interested in. And because we can know if you are listening, we can know if you're watching what they are saying, they will adapt whatever they're saying based on whether you're listening or not. And to you, it just looks like characters in a game having a conversation, but in the meantime, you are being manipulated to, being persuaded to buy a car. Personally, I think that's a lot worse than having, display ads that follow you around the web. Because in this case, you do not know whether you are being manipulated or not. And then the final issue that we have to look into is the issue of copyright. Getty Images, the famous big-known stock company, has said that they're going to remove all AI art. Same for ArtStation. And at the same time, Getty Images is suing Stability AI, the company behind Stable Diffusion, for literally scraping the entire website of images. How do they know that they did that? If in some images that you generate with Stable Diffusion, the watermark of Getty Images is even still visible. So they were caught sort of red-handed. So the question of how do we define copyright in an age of generative AI is really difficult to answer. And we'll have to see how that will evolve in the years to come. So will we end up in a hyper-personalized AI-generated filter bubble? That's of course the question. I think probably yes. But it doesn't have to be that way. And we really have a chance to take control to our own lives and to ensure that we have control of our own data, of our own digital assets, over our own identity. And I believe that there are 3 ways to overcome these challenges. These are education, verification, and regulation. So if we look at education, I think we need to educate the world on how to deal with digital technologies. We've sort of sleepwalked into this digital age where big tech has created amazing, seamless technology, but we never thought about carefully of what this all means to us. And the technology is evolving so fast that I cannot blame anyone that it's difficult to keep up. It's even for me as a futurist, it's my job to keep up to date, and even for me it's difficult. So if you're a CEO of a very large company, I cannot expect you to know everything that's going on. If you are a parent of 2 or 3 children, I can't expect you to know, what the impact is of ChatGPT on your lives. But we do need to understand that. And we do need to educate our children. Because who are going to educate our children? It's not the parents, because they don't know. It's not the teachers, because they don't know. So who is going to teach our children how to behave with this technology? I think that's very, very crucial if we want to ensure a thriving digital future. That's exactly what we're focusing on with my research institute. Now, if we are able to educate the general public and the enterprise organizations and the governments, then we need to move to verification. Because we want to know whether some content is actually being created with AI. And OpenAI is developing watermarks, and there are other companies working on creating those watermarks, but it's not really, it's not very accurate at the moment. At the moment, I think it's like 25% accurate, which is worse than throwing a coin whether something is generated by AI or not. But moreover, if I am interacting in the metaverse with an avatar, I want to know that that avatar is being controlled by the person that I think I am dealing with. And not that I'm dealing with something totally else. Yeah, that's, I'm having a phishing act going on. So maybe we need to link our avatars to soul-bound tokens. But then my wallet might get hacked, which also happens all the time. So maybe we need to link that soul-bound token to biometrics. These are all important things to think about, how to verify our identity in an immersive world. And then, of course, the third one is regulation. We need to create regulation that will, ensure that we build the next iteration of the internet with the right rules in mind. And that we don't end up in a world where big tech controls our data even more than they do today. Because mind you, in a world of generative AI and the metaverse, we will create 100 times more data than we do today. So we need to make sure that that data belongs to us and not to a centralized identity. And I think regulation that is there to encourage innovation, but also move it into the right direction, is very, very important. So the question is then, of course, how will the future of the internet look like? I think it's going to be really, really exciting. The fact that we can create these images literally within seconds today, and that technology is evolving and technology is converging, imagine what will be possible 5 or 10 years from now. We will be able to create these hyper-realistic, personalized metaverse experiences, both in virtual reality and augmented reality, on the fly, without much effort, just using our own voice. I think that's pretty exciting. But I also think that we should not rely just on AI. We should also focus on working with AI, because AI will beat humans, but humans working with AI will beat AI. And I think this human-machine collaboration is really, really important, because it will teach us how to deal with a technology that is very, very powerful. If we do that, if we have a successful human-machine collaboration, I think that we'll be able to create a magical, human-centric metaverse, where we can have these amazing experiences and where we still have control over our own data, digital assets, and identity. So, a brave new metaverse or a nightmare scenario? I really think it's up to us. It's up to us how we use this very, very powerful technology in building the next iteration of the internet. Thank you very much.